Hello. In this video I'm going to be talking about removing and replacing a steering wheel in an 80 series Land Cruiser. These instructions might be the same for other Toyotas, I don't know. But this isn't going to be a comprehensive video on the process, and it's actually going to be very out of order because I'm starting with the wheel out. But I'm making this video so if you want to know like screw placements or kind of what's involved, you can watch it. And hopefully the video is not like 3 hours long, so you can get through it pretty quick. But the reason I took the steering wheel off is because I had it recovered with from this company, Craft Customs, in Texas, and I made a separate video on that. I'll put a link in the description to that video. But I took it out, got it recovered, I got it back now, and I'm going to be reassembling it and putting it in the Land Cruiser, back in the Land Cruiser. So before I sent this off, I took everything off of it. So it was in this same configuration here, except for I had the old leather on it. And I had to remove a couple things. This is the steering wheel switch here, and that goes on here, and here this has a switch on it. And I'll do a little close up here in case you take yours apart and the parts get out of order. You can look at this. There's some springs here. There's like a little plastic or rubber grommet that isolates the this bolt, because when this gets squeezed together, these contacts make contact and it honks the horn. So this is the left side here, and then the right side. The right side has the cruise control switch on it. These screws here are the screws that attach the airbag to the steering wheel. So like I say, I'm going out of order. When we get to that point, I'll walk through that a little bit. So I'm going to reattach these. I'm also using a T27 Torx bit. So there we go. I got this one at Home Depot. It's like a Husky brand. It was pretty cheap. So let's get. I'll do this. Okay, so I have those tightened. You can see the contacts here. I'll just press these and make sure they're all functioning properly. So next I have this trim piece that goes on the back. So I'll get that in place. When I took it apart, I put the screws in there so I wouldn't lose them. Okay, so I have this back trim piece on now. It probably would have been easier to put the back trim on before. So that's kind of why I'm making this video, so you can learn from my mistakes. It's a little difficult to get the screwdriver in here, but it wasn't impossible, so you can do whatever you want. So I've got the steering wheel back together. The airbag will go in here after I get the steering wheel back on the car, and it will look like that. So my next video will be in the car. Okay, so I'm in the Land Cruiser now. And I have the steering wheel just kind of in here temporarily because, like I say, I'm going out of order. But to remove this, you take your T27 Torx and you remove a little piece of plastic that goes here. Let me find that. It looks like this and this. And you pop these out. So it's kind of hinged on the side towards the dash. So you pop it out on the side away from the dash and it should pop out. So this one here, it's got the little hinge there, the clip there, so you pop that out and remove it. And then in here you'll see there's that Torx screw. You loosen that, and then on this side, let's see if I can get this in here, you loosen that one there. When you have those loose, you can pop the airbag off, and it will have a connector down here. So this connector, you squeeze it and it pops up, and then you can unplug it. So I'll plug this back in, and then I'll push it back down to lock it. It does say to store the airbag face down. So I had it on the floorboards. while I was waiting for the steering wheel to be done. So the other connector is this connector here, and I used this little Harbor Freight pick thing. I stuck it in this hole here and pried up and then pulled it out. So those are some things I did. Then you're gonna have a nut on here. So that is a 19 millimeter nut. You're gonna loosen that up, but you don't want to take that all the way off because you'll need to pull the steering wheel. So in order to pull the steering wheel, back to the airbag real quick. So there's these little plastic studs here. Okay, 4 of them. Those go in these holes here in the horn switch. So I want to mention that. And also, I mean, and like I said, this is kind of an overview. You're going to want to read like the factory service manual or something. I've disconnected the battery and I've left it disconnected this whole time. So some people say you want to disconnect it and let it de-energize for a couple hours. There's different things, but I've had it disconnected. You don't want to start your car up, or I think even, I don't know what will cause it, but you can get a diagnostic trouble code if you don't have the airbag in when you turn the car on. So I've had the car off. I've had the battery out of it this whole time while I had the steering wheel off. So for a couple weeks, this was a good winter project for me since I'm not going to need to drive it. So you can take this nut off, and then I used one of these little fine point Sharpies here, and I made some marks on here. It was kind of difficult, but I put little marks so I could tell how to reorient the steering wheel. It is splined when you take it off, but you know, you could get it off by a little degree. I don't have a lock on this steering wheel, so I mean, it can still turn. So you really do need the marks. And when I, sent it in and got it back, the marks were still there, so they didn't use a solvent to wash them off or anything, if that was a concern. So then you're going to want to have the nut on there, and then you'll use a puller. The puller fits on here. You put 2 bolts in here, and then it has a middle bolt that you tighten, and it pops this off. So I used an old Craftsman puller, but you can probably borrow one at an auto parts store, or Harbor Freight has them super cheap. I don't know how much they are, maybe $12, something like that, if you use a coupon. So they're very cheap. Use a puller. It was very easy to get off. Just tighten it a little bit. This popped off. You leave this nut on here so the steering wheel doesn't come flying off if it's tight. And then you take the steering wheel off, and you just disconnect these 2 connectors here, and the steering wheel comes right out. So to reconnect it, we'll plug in this connector. Well, here, I'll tighten it down first. So I'll put the nut on. Okay, and that gets torqued to 25 foot-pounds. So, okay, so I've got a torque wrench here. This is going to be tricky to tighten this and film at the same time. I'm going to put the phone down so I can torque this properly. Okay, so I've got that torque down. I'll press in this wire here. I've got the airbag here. I'm not gonna lie, it kind of scares me working with this airbag. I'm gonna set this down a little bit. Okay, I've got that plugged in. It didn't blow up, so that was really good. I pressed this, the airbag in it. Those little studs went in there. It was very easy, clipped right in. So now you can push it just like you're pushing your horn. And then I'll tighten these screws down. Those torque to 6.5 foot-pounds, and my torque wrench doesn't go that low, so I'm just gonna have to tighten them. There we go, I made a sound with my mouth to indicate that I was torqued correctly. And now I'll put these plates back on. Okay. There we go. So I'll step back a bit so you can see. There it is. That's the replacement removal of a steering wheel. And like, again, I apologize for the order of everything in this video. I already had it off, but I wanted to film because someone may be wanting to do this and be curious how like the connectors come apart or what's involved. So, you know, I highly recommend reading the factory service manual or something along those lines if you want to do a job like this, just to be safe. So, but that's it, and I'll put a link in the description to my Land Cruiser playlist, and I'll put a link to the video where I look at the reupholstery. I have a before and after of the steering wheel you can look at if you're curious about that. So thanks for watching. If you like this, please click like, and thanks. Have any comments, leave them below, and thanks for watching. Bye.